Hello and welcome to Default Assault, where we take on everything by default, from movies to television to theme park rides. Kyle, how's it going?
Well enough, man. Listen, we've spanned a lot of various criteria, but I think this is the first time we've attacked an entire series, an episodic kind of experience here. So I'm looking forward to that, bud.
Today we'll be talking about Marvel's The Defenders. Yes, the epic Netflix culmination of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and everyone's favorite Iron Fist.
Stop it.
I'm sure there's somebody out there that likes. The stars were well paid for it, so I'm sure they have an affinity for Iron Fist. But anyway, well, before we even jump in to Netflix's The Defenders, Kyle, what did you think about the other shows?
I mean, let's be clear. Daredevil season 1 and 2 were very solid. I know some people take a dump on Daredevil season 2 because of Elektra and the hand. And really that whole hand plot is iffy, so I don't blame them. Luke Cage is absolutely fantastic, easily my favorite of the main series. Jessica Jones was very solid, definitely a different kind of character. And then there's Iron Fist. Oh boy. This is what happens when you rush things, folks. And they rushed Iron Fist bad. And they did it after the first 3 Heroes shows went so well and the bar was set so high, and they came out and disappointed mightily. There were certain elements in it that were good. The female lead in Iron Fist was good. The inclusion of Claire in Iron Fist, I kind of liked how they faked that without her making her another love interest to one of the male heroes. But beyond that, yeah, it was disappointing.
I'm mostly in agreement. Daredevil season 1 kind of took a lot of people by surprise, especially for a show that's produced by Disney, essentially.
Right.
I did have a preference for season 1 than 2. I did like the fact that season 2 moved at a little bit more of a quicker pace than 1, but I'm in agreement with you. The hand. Well, I can't think of a better pun than to say it made me want to face palm.
Well, and I mean, and again, like Iron Fist to the rest of the heroes, the hand in comparison to Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, as a villain, holy God, what a mismatch, dude! Easily the best character in the entire goddamn arc, and I am looking forward to when they inject him in the future into some other season of something, because that was the best realization of the character. I mean, it was the only one. Well, I mean, easily the best one in live action. Look, Michael Clark Duncan, I'm sorry, Doug, you missed that one, but this guy was even better than the animated series that was on Fox in the 90s. As far as his delivery, and he's in live action and has all the disadvantages therein, and is still goddamn amazing.
Well, Vincent D'Onofrio freaking nailed it, but
Oh,
in respect to Michael Clark Duncan, I think a lot of people were let down by the screenplay
yeah.
to that unspoken movie. Let's not talk about that one. Jessica Jones took me by surprise. I mean, I liked it a lot more than I thought it would. Not to say that I had any trepidation going in, but it really caught me. And I was looking. Jessica Jones made me look forward to Luke Cage. And for the most part, Luke Cage delivered. The first half of the show, excellent. Great soundtrack, great lighting, great characters, Cottonmouth, fantastic. I really felt that it went downhill in the second half, and by the time they had Power Man and that goofy little fight in the street, it completely lost me. But not to the degree, and it's incomparable to say Iron Fist. Dear God, if you were to add up all the scenes where he actually uses his Iron Fist, it would be shorter than the opening credits of the goddamn show. No, it was miscast, poorly written. If I had to hear him talk about realigning his chi or Kunlun one more freaking time, and it was there was nothing interesting about this show, and the character didn't grow on you. By the end of the show, I wanted to deck him, and it had nothing to do with the whitewashing controversy or any of that stuff. It was just a poorly written show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, well, and well, see, that's another thing too. Really quick, the air quotes whitewashing controversy of Iron Fist. No, that's the character, guys. I'd hate to tell you. Anyways,
Yeah, so I was looking forward to the Defenders, and if anything, I mean, because you had for the most part, you had three-fourths of a good cast, and I had some hope. I had some hope that they would redeem Iron Fist, but before we break it down and point out some of the flaws that we found in the show, what did you think? What are some of the positive things that you enjoyed from the Defenders?
well, first of all, let me be clear. You were looking forward to it. I was like, all right, look, guys, you hit your low. Just make it better than Iron Fist, and I'll let y'all fools slide. Okay. So there's a difference in point of view as we were leading into this series, right? But I got to tell you, if I were going to give you the high point of this series, yo, that boardroom fight, though. Holy shit. I'm not even a big comic book nerd. I've only really been super exposed to these characters, either through Daredevil's guest appearances on the 90s Spider-Man show, where I thought he was an amazing character, much like I did Doctor Strange. I only have the Netflix series to expose me to these shows, and this was brilliant. And I feel like every character not named Luke Cage was improved. And the only reason why Luke Cage wasn't improved is because I thought he was so fucking amazing in his show in the first place.
Yeah, at least he didn't spend a few episodes, recovering from a gunshot wound, and which happened in both series beforehand.
I mean, look, look, the gunshot wound thing was an excellent gimmick in the Jessica Jones arc. And I mean, I mean, she had to recover from other shots that Luke Cage delivered to her, if you catch my meaning. But which, by the way, I had no idea Claire wanted coffee that strong. That's all I'm gonna say. Moving on. So someone had to make the coffee joke.
Okay? And you know what? And knowing Luke Cage, he did not go for espresso.
For Claire's sake, I certainly hope not. I mean, what? Anyway, so a dark rich roast. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, no, the punchline to all that is we mentioned the character interactions, and I'll tell you, I know the actor choice for Iron Fist in and of itself is one you're kind of disappointed in. I think it could have been done better, but I'm slow to criticize it because I honestly couldn't come up with a better answer. But Iron Fist Danny Rand is an improved character in this show. Unfortunately, what it also shows is the role he needs to play the Defenders is similar to that of Tony Stark to Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming. He'll occasionally step in and fight. He's certainly a fiscal support, but beyond that, he is just that to this group, a support. And unfortunately, the way this plot was tied into season 2 of Daredevil with the hand and the black sky and all that other crap. Sorry, Demos, dropping the spoilers, bitches, somewhere in here. It's going to happen. All right, class. Spoilers, bitches. Spoilers. That extent, Danny Rand is much improved. And then as the series goes on, they leave him out on his own and he starts to flounder again. But I mentioned the boardroom scene, the escape from that building. The second best scene is the whole interaction in the restaurant to start. I think that's episode 4. Is a great exchange, and they continue to have pretty damn solid exchanges. Like, in my mind, going throughout this series, there is no true leader of this group. Somebody just makes a decision, somebody says it's bullshit, and eventually all of them talk themselves into doing it. And I don't mean to make it sound like that's formulaic. Well, I'll put it this way. Let's say it is formulaic. It damn worked for me when the 4 of them were interacting with each other. It was a great show.
To a degree, there are a few areas where I do agree with you. especially, I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. The ending of the third episode with the boardroom fight, and then the following episode, actually sitting back and seeing these characters interact, uh, kind of reminiscent of the opening party scene in Avengers: Age of Ultron. You actually got to see these characters meet each other and actually sit back and interact. And it was the one time where I actually really felt that Danny Rand almost worked, where he was actually a little bit more laid back. He wasn't talking about chi and kung lung and all his mysticism every goddamn second. He was actually sitting back and they were joking around about how much he likes to eat. Okay, for the first time, they achieved, for me at least, a little bit of affinity for the character.
He does talk about his chi, though, as the reason why he eats so much. I don't mean to ruin that for you, but you got to remember.
You son of a bitch! You just took my one positive statement about it and went hickiness figginess, motherfucker, and destroyed it.
Gotcha, bitch.
I'm gonna have to realign my own goddamn chi for this video. Grace.
Oh no, he's infected you.
Okay, well, at the very least, they kind of made fun of it, though. I mean, it was laid back.
I love the stuff where like they come out with the food. He's like, "Oh, what is that?" He's like, "That's shrimp." Oh, this guy's got pork. All right. Yeah. Which, first of all, what billionaire prefers shrimp or, excuse me, pork over shrimp? What the hell is that? But I guess that's the point.
There are people out there that are not big fans of shrimp. You know, me actually, I've never been a big fan of the sea bugs.
Hashtag you problem. Moving on.
Oh, I fully agree, but hashtag me problem. So some other positives. Sigourney Weaver was pretty good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Fisk level good.
You said good, not great. There's a difference.
Yeah, exactly. So that you had that going for it. I liked the characters' interactions with each other. I liked that they kind of broke them apart into different pairs, so you got to see all of them kind of interact with each other one on one. I think the least that we got was probably like Luke Cage and Daredevil. They didn't interact as much directly, but you got a little bit of everyone. And yeah, I that pretty much sums up all the things I really did like about the show. Unfortunately, I will admit right now I was let down. I was overall let down, and I have 5 specific reasons why I was let down, and one of them was one of your positives. Iron Fist.
Am I gonna Rogue One you and beat the shit out of you in another debate?
Well, if you're gonna Rogue One me, that means you're already admitting defeat. So
yeah, there you go.
Bring it on, bring it on. At the beginning of the show, up through episode 4, so half of the show, I was like, okay, they're finally starting to improve this character. He's finally starting to become a little bit more assertive. He's finally starting to make some correct decisions. He's accepting himself where he is. He's like, okay, I am this billionaire. Well, I'm going to take advantage of the situation and use it to our mutual benefit. Great. And then the second half of the season takes a shit on that concept. They pass him around, they tie him up and pass him around more times than the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Wow.
And then at the very end, like the second to last episode, they say, okay, they position him in front of this mystical gateway. The only thing that can unlock this is your Iron Fist. So what does he do? He gets into a fight with Elektra, lights up his fist, and starts punching randomly until he actually hits the wall and opens the gate. Uh-oh! And, yes, I understand they had to do that so they can get to that point, but it just made his character. If you didn't hate him before, by the end of the show, you're gonna despise this guy.
Yeah, that's a strong take on the punching thing, but I think what they're also trying to portray here. So, first of all, you mentioned the one moment he's assertive with being a billionaire actually is not truly him being assertive. It's him being pushed by what I thought was it's the one moment, Luke Cage moment in either this in the Defenders or his series where I was like, no, that didn't fit. and he's talking about him. You're some white boy billionaire, and like really digging into him.
We're talking about privilege.
Yeah, and his final line to him, he actually refers to him as privileged. I'm like, no, I really don't think Luke Cage would have done that. Now, all the stuff leading up to it calls him a billionaire, not basically does everything except for use the word privileged, which again, my perception of this is I know this is a concept that may have been around for a while, but I think I really feel like that was kind of thrown in there.
As a response to Iron Fist.
Well, it's thrown as a response to Iron Fist, but I think there's a little bit more meaning to that. Like there's a kind of I'll say a millennial pull, for lack of a better one, for the use of that word by Luke Cage. To me, it doesn't fit that guy. He would call you what you are. Is like, you're this whiny billionaire. Go do something.
Rather than the buzzword.
Yeah, the buzzword. Yeah, exactly. Buzzwords do not fit Luke Cage. I couldn't put it better.
So great, Kyle. You succeeded in taking one of the nice things I said about him and completely destroying it.
Again.
And just since I brought up the ending, it leads me to point number 2, the entire ending of this show. Okay, so these are Marvel's street level characters. These are the characters that deal with the everyday shit that happens in the city that, you're not going to see Iron Man swoop in and stop a little robbery at the side of the street or anything. And yet, the ending of the show takes place in the skeleton of a dragon underground New York that somehow supports the whole damn city as they're fighting in this mystical passageway for his skeleton that grants immortal life. What the hell? Honestly, if I said, if you had watched Luke Cage first, and then I said, oh, the next time you see this guy, he's going to be fighting inside the skeleton of a dragon that supports the entire city of New York, what would your reaction have been?
Well, actually, you see, that's it's not fair to make that leap because, and I think I alluded to this when we were talking about it leading up to this show. That's how bad the Iron Fist series was, and the biggest problem with this show, like you're disappointed by it. Honestly, the things that went wrong, I had already kind of predicted, so I wasn't disappointed, right? And knowing up front that they were going to tie Iron Fist in the hand and all that bullshit into the plot to be the antagonist essentially, and that they were going to have the Black Sky and all this other crap, that leap that you mentioned was a far lesser distance from me, and like I said, it's the suffering of Iron Fist being so bad that it bled into the Defenders.
I get what you're saying, and I can see that perspective, but it's still maybe if it was set up better, and I mean, I guess the 2 key words to sum up the entire damn series is missed opportunity, but it just came across as rather silly, and at the very least, okay, well. You said that you predicted a lot of it, and I think that's also part of the problem. The moment they went down to the cave, the moment that...
I should have said expected in that it tied the mystical element. The cave thing, I didn't know that was going to happen per se. And I'll be honest, I probably shouldn't have been, but I was genuinely surprised when Elektra dropped Alexandra.
Sigourney Weaver's character, yes.
I probably should have expected that, knowing what I know about Elektra's character and stuff like that. But that was delivered very well. Again, a rare example in the later part of the show of something that was done particularly correct.
It's subverted expectation because they had kind of formed this kind of motherly daughter bond, and then that happened. So yes, that was done pretty well. And I'm given how the show turned out, I'm more willing to give Sigourney Weaver's acting prowess to that helped that subversion.
Some of those outfits were just cool, dude. That's all I'm saying. I didn't know a dress could it doesn't literally double as armor, but like it's an elegant dress while also kind of looking like battle gear, and it was cool. I really liked it.
I did like some of the jokes they did throw towards Daredevil. He being the only one who suits up like a purple Ninja Turtle, compared to the other one who everybody else who's like in street clothes. I did like some of the humor. I will grant it that it needed maybe a little bit more.
Dude. And to be honest, because she may have gotten she Jessica Jones is gonna get a little less air quotes screen time because if there's a fight of this group, she's probably the biggest liability. Yeah, I get it. She's super strong, but she's also particularly vulnerable, and we see that. That being said, that is recovered by the fact that she is definitely the comic relief of this troop and delivers awesomely. And I honestly, one of the better exchanges in the entire show is again leading up to the boardroom fight where they get up there and like he's still wearing her scarf and she goes, you look like an asshole, and then he says, well, it's your scarf. So that the exchange between she and Daredevil is great. The part in the restaurant after the counselor, a word, and she breaks down how she knows exactly who he actually is and all this other stuff. Great scene there too, more serious,
playing up to her character.
Correct. Everybody's fighting style was exactly what it should have been, right? Like, okay, I'm Luke Cage. Oh, you're gonna beat the shit out of me with a lot of wimpy little fast hits. That's great. It doesn't do a thing to me. Wow, suck it. That first fight between Fist and Cage went exactly the way it should have.
I agree with that.
And then with Jessica Jones, why does everybody know fucking karate? She's actually frustrated because all she normally has to do is hit somebody and they're done, and she struggles to connect because they're doing ninja shit.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. And it would have been, to bring up the fight scenes and to bring up the one or two of the decent ones, which were early on in episode 3 and 4.
I'll say it so you don't have to sound like a negative Nancy the whole damn episode. So many fight scenes go back to your 2-word theme of the Defenders as a series in the form of missed opportunities. There were great fights in some of the show, no question. I would say virtually everything that involves Scott Glenn is pretty solid. Yes, Stick I thought was good in this show.
Scott Glenn is always fantastic.
There you go. But towards the end, some of these climax battles were just damn pathetic and were awful missed opportunities.
It's the editing. I mean, especially the closer of the second to last episode, when it's the 3 main members of the Hand versus everybody but Iron Fist. And it intercuts with a fight with Iron Fist and Elektra. But the editing was just so I couldn't tell what the heck was happening. I went frame by frame to see, to try and figure out what was going on. I mean, one moment you see Luke Cage throwing a punch. The next moment it cuts to something jumbling for no reason. Then it cuts to maybe a split second of Daredevil fighting 2 at the same time. And then it cuts to the little old Asian lady with the force powers. Yes. And then suddenly you see, Jessica Jones flying through the air and Luke Cage trying to punch her. I honestly, I couldn't tell. It gave me a headache.
On top of all that, it's dark as hell. Maybe they did that to prevent people from having seizures. I don't know. So you combine bad editing with shit lighting, and what do you get? You get a garbage scene.
The choreography was pretty good. The idea of the scene was a good idea, but the editing and, of course, as you mentioned before, the lighting undercuts what could have been a good scene and makes it the end product ends up looking cheap. And it's a disservice to everybody that worked so hard to actually create the scene.
Right. Well, and I floated this idea. You seem to disagree with me, but I'll go with it too. It almost seems like they filmed the end of the series first, and then went to work at the beginning of the series, leading up to the first 3.5-ish episodes, because they're like, okay, we're gonna film this ending, okay, knowing that they're gonna have to repair Danny Rand, they're gonna have to make us take the Hand seriously and pray, okay. And I know that's a conspiracy theory probably, but if I'm a one-man conspiracy, then I'm not really a conspiracy because you need at least 5. But the punchline is, that's the juxtaposition between what is supposed to be the climax of this damn series to the boardroom scene. It's almost like they're two separate productions.
Well, I almost guarantee that didn't happen, but the fact that it came off that way,
Exactly.
what does that say?
Right.
And then you had like I understood like at the beginning of the show. I actually kind of liked, although it did feel disjointed. This is a double-edged sword of a observation. I did like how in the first episode when they're introducing their characters, almost all of them had a different color scheme
Oh
to
yeah.
their scenes, and I thought that was stylistic. It made it kind of seem disjointed, but I thought, okay, I can accept that. But the overuse of the soundtrack whenever Luke Cage showed up, and it was a little corny, especially at the end of the show when they're having the big fight and suddenly hip hop music comes out of nowhere.
That was terrible. That's the worst thing I've seen since the final gun battle in Django Unchained. That was actually terrible and ruined. The fight was already bad enough. Then you pulled that stuff. I'm like, all right, I'm only here because it's the last episode. Otherwise, I'd have flipped the damn table over.
Tell me, real quick, what was the villains, the hands, main motivation, main goal in this film, this series?
Allegedly.
Because throughout the show, it changes dramatically. You have a few episodes where they're saying that they want to destroy, that their ultimate goal is to destroy New York, like they did Pompeii and so forth, kind of like a Batman Begins kind of idea. Okay, then you have the end goal, which ended up being the immortality because they want to mine the dragon, which I guess somehow might destabilize and destroy the city. Maybe that goes hand in hand. They didn't really go too far into that. And of course, the other big thing is they keep repeating they want to get to Kunlun. They want to get to Kunlun. They want. It was so improperly set up. I mean, when you're sitting back, you're like, okay, what is their main goal? Seems to be shifting from episode to episode. It just shows a lack of thinking.
Well, I think there's something to that. I hadn't thought of it as deeply as you had, but I think what was attempted here, and notice I say attempted, like a lot of things, I liken it to some of your critiques of Rogue One for those that have watched that episode with us, right? There's a lot of things that were tried that would have been good ideas and were good ideas, but they just failed in the execution. I think what they're trying to portray is their first mission was to impose their will, take New York by storm, do that whole thing, take it down, purify it, whatever, what have you. That was their goal. And then they actually got so threatened that they had to actually shift their focus to finding Kunlun and their secret to immortality through that dragon, et cetera, et cetera. And that was just poorly portrayed. That transition was not made clear to the audience, if indeed that was the goal. And of course, I'm speaking to this as the best case scenario. Perhaps they just blew it. That's possible. But the reason why I go with the best case scenario is if that's the case, it still shows a pretty glaring screw up, right?
Well, here's the thing. If there's one thing that I really hate in film or television is feeling like I'm being spoon fed information. So I like films that have confidence or TV that have confidence enough in its audience to be able to connect the dots. So I'm not saying that it should have been spelled out, but what's more annoying is when you're spoon fed all this information from different directions and you end up with heartburn, because that's how I felt with this damn villain motivation.
Can't front on that.
So those are my five big issues with it. What do you think?
I mean, basically, I can't help but notice that your issues are basically in the back half of the show, and we touched on the fact that that's weak. I liken this to the Bruce Willis movie Unbreakable, where it was a pretty solid movie until you got to the end, and it's just really unfortunate. Like in the case of Defenders, the final fight scene. No, I'm not even talking about all the big characters versus the other big characters. We touched on that fight separately, but the final scene where there's the battle and the explosive gets set off by accident because Bakuto fell on it. And they're trying to get out, and then Daredevil sacrifices himself, and all this, that, and the other thing. That fight was all over the place. I did like the scene where Jessica Jones held up the elevator, and all that shit was funny. Like, can you stop scaring and start climbing, please? That was funny. But
did you feel like even him sacrificing himself kind of felt like been there, done that? How many times have we seen this now? This show.
Well, hold on. Daredevil having his gimmick isn't necessarily a strike against the show. I don't.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't even call it a strike. It just, it lacked. I wasn't.
Plot does, so why should not the resolution? I mean, I see what you're saying, but we've kind of touched on it.
And you knew he was coming back, so what? It's just like it just.
Yeah, it was the problem.
Yeah.
Not only when he made the sacrifice was it not compelling. The way they just kind of introduced his escape was like, oh, the shit fell, blah blah blah. Oh, look, he's in bed. He's not dead. Oh my god. No, bleep you. All right, do something.
Okay, so you set up this big sacrifice, right? It lacks its punch because everybody knows that he's gonna survive, and then they're like, at the very end, they're like, yeah, we kind of figured nobody's gonna believe it, so let's just show that he survived anyway.
Maybe that was it. Fuck it, I don't know. And I mean, I kind of dug what they did at the end, showing the different characters in their various state. You got Jessica Jones doing her thing, Luke Cage doing his, Danny Rand feeling all guilt written up in the rooftops, making his fist glow. Okay, I'm cool with all that. And then it cuts to him. I'm like, no, it's a bad show. Anyway.
So I mean, okay, I will. My final judgment on the Defenders is this. If you've seen all the other series, yeah, yes, by far you have to see it. I will rank it higher. It's definitely an improvement over Iron Fist. Everything but Iron Fist had a certain level of quality, so it was kind of a letdown. So yeah, the Defenders, it had its issues. It's worth seeing for those at least episodes 3 and 4, which are solid entertainment. Just don't have very high expectations. I'd probably, out of a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 3 or 4.
Oh, I wouldn't be that harsh. My goodness. Like, okay, so the people are gonna ask, well, where does it rank? Okay, so it ain't Daredevil season 1. It ain't Luke Cage. I would argue that it plays about the same as either a Jessica Jones or a Daredevil season 2, because Jessica Jones had some slow moments. But I think it's more comparable to Daredevil season 2 in that it starts real strong. All the stuff going on with Frank Castle and the Punisher and all that's great. And then, Daredevil's got to run over and play with a side piece for a while and mess with the hand and all that other. That actually sounds dirty when I put those two things together. But the point is, like, when it left the thing about the Punisher, then it kind of went to hell. And much like this, once they confront the hand head on and barely escape and start to team up, certain elements of it do go to hell. For me, I have to put this, I mean, the worst I could possibly give it is a 5.5 because I don't think it's bad. But I can't give it a 7 because I don't think it's above average either. I would probably put it about 6.
Well, you're a kind and generous soul, and I will end on I will end in a positive note. 3 positive notes. A, from my understanding, season 3 of Daredevil is going to have more Fisk in it. Fantastic. You got me back. Just if that's the case, just knowing that it's going to bring me back no matter what. 2, the Punisher is getting his own series, and I'm looking forward to that because he was by far probably the strongest element of Daredevil season 2, in my opinion.
I don't know that he can carry an entire series on his own, and I'll leave that at that.
I'm up for the challenge if you are. And
I'm gonna watch the mother. I didn't say it.
and number 3, I really hope, and if it's true, that this might be the end of the hand storyline, because this was the most unsatisfying hand job I've ever witnessed.
Oh God. How many days had you been had that built up to say on this show?
Actually, about 40 seconds, but that's
absolute lies.
40 seconds, which is one of the reasons, is also one of the most disappointing hand jobs ever.
Well, I mean, hey, that's true, because we all know that Luke Cage's cup of coffee lasted way longer than that. Boom! What can I say except you're welcome?
On another positive note, your 6 to my 4 makes it a solid 5. So
I'll roll with that.
take it as it comes. All right. Well, that concludes this episode of Default Assault. Make sure to check us out again next week, where we discuss Game of Thrones, season 7 by default. I'm looking forward to this. They say that the last episode is going to be like 80 minutes long. It's practically a feature-length movie, and following what happened in the last episode, I am intrigued to see how it plays out. More on that next week.
How it plays out, but look, we predicted a whole ton of bleep right here and nailed it like Ron Jeremy. I'm just throwing that out there.
Part of me, as awesome as our top 7 Game of Thrones predictions video was, check it out in the description below. I will actually be somewhat disappointed if the rest of them actually do come true. I want a few little elements of surprise.
You'll love it if Davos ends up on the Iron Throne.
Oh, no. If Davos ends up on the Iron Throne, it would make it all worth it. I would yeah, that would the Onion King. Come on, man.
Oh God, that's even more awesome. I hadn't even thought of that yet.
that would make my day. As much as I would like Braun to be up there, let's just face it, Davos would make a better king. But anyway, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Default Hilarity, on Facebook, Hilarity by Default, and my website, hilaritybydefault.com, for weekly movie reviews and other awesome content. Kyle, where can we find you?
Well, by the time you're watching this, you'll be finding me at Spectrum Stadium covering the UCF Knights, still keeping the sports alive while I talk to you about pop culture. Boom. Of course, you'll find me on Twitter at the SOTG, and of course, as the student of the game on Facebook. So yeah, good times. Thanks, Demos.
Awesome. Like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and we'll see you next week by default.